this whole metroplex area is that people recognize the social burden that they need to carry. And whether it's for the homeless or whether it's for food shelters or food and shelters or abused people or whatever else, or for higher education. It's a generous place, and we're all blessed by that. But I think it's also, I think, a recognition of just how much these individuals are carrying right now, and who all is asking them, and the importance of having your vision clear and your ability to articulate what that vision is and how to get there, what the goals and the steps are, and how those individuals can be helpful to you to reach that, and then how they can, out of their desire to do it, how can it be worked out to where they can do it, and then ask for the gift. Thank you. Be glad to take, we've got about 3 minutes. I'd be glad to take a couple of questions, unless it would be easier just to get out. Any questions on it? Yes. My chair of economics. He's probably going back to it.
You might comment on the very positive economic news that came out of the Dallas Morning News today on expansion at Texas Instruments and how capital spending expenditures are improving. So those are some things that are positive in this metroplex area.
It is. There, any kind of expansion in Texas Instruments, of course, it delayed that for a good while, but they're such a bellwether component of our community. It is important that they're doing well, and the whole telecom area has rebounded pretty well. And I noticed Hewlett Packard had a good earnings report, and how that would pick up a lot of things, and that will directly help UTD in a lot of areas, just because of their proximity to it and the goal of how the state of Texas came to put some money into that. And I think it's important. I think nationally, though, the need for banks to, again, really be doing major things is going to have to loosen up. It is how fast it will, and if it occurs a lot quicker than we think, because really the Fed and others can only pull money out of the system if the private sector, meaning banks and others, are replacing it with the things that build projects like that, where it's not on TARP money or it's not on other kinds of things. It's due to the fact that there's private capital that's available to get these big projects done. Right here, it's going to be interesting to see all these buildings on the north side of the road here, with all of them that have been built, all these condominiums that you can see through. They'll eventually be filled, but how long will it take? How many owners will they have? How many different banks will be funding them, and so on, and all that is supposed to take about another 2 years on the real estate side. But if everything else were to come back stronger, that would help. Any good news is good news. When people give to other schools, that's great news, because that means that people are giving, and so that ought to inspire ours. If people are building new facilities, expanding, well, that makes somebody else think, if I'm really ready to do that, I won't look crazy if I do it, because after all, TI is. And so all that works together to help. Yes?
There's been some rumor, whatever, that particularly like the Harvards and that there's a perception that this money that's coming in is just being locked away someplace and it's not being used in the academy. And there's some pressure to spend down money instead of just living off the interest. Are you feeling any of that? Or?
Well, that has really ended. Senator Grassley had that as sort of a hobby that he was really nailing on, and that is that rather than spending 5%, you ought to be spending a lot more than that to achieve your goals, and particularly to put in student aid. And it was in response to that, a lot of schools did say that they were going to quit giving student loans, and they would, if they admitted somebody, that they would be able to graduate without any loans for tuition and fees. Brown University and some others have pulled that back with the drop. And so with the drop of their endowments, I don't think you see as much of that. There is always, in our investment committee and our finance committee, there's a debate there, because there's two things you're dealing with endowments. You want to be fair to the people who are alive right now, but you also have a responsibility to the people that are coming later. And so how is it that you ensure the quality of your education system later, while at the same time being fair to what's going on now? And that ends up being related to what is your predicted rate of return. And if it's 20% per year, then I agree 4.75 or 4%, like they're spending, may be a little bit low. And in some areas, they started picking up in that particular area. But at the same time, if inflation is going to run, let's say when with all this money in the system, so on, if inflation kicks back up to 5 to 7% per year, then it doesn't take too many years of that to where you're not being fair to the future. If the value you're providing to them is less than the value that you're providing today. And so the models of working those out are not that complicated, but the discussion sometimes gets that way. And it's always been the American view we've got to make things better for the future than right now. And I think with the national debt and with all of the, it's, to me, it was no surprise that Grassley would come out with that at this particular time and push it. But you haven't heard anything out of him on that for about a year, simply because there's been so much loss of income. Final question.
What can SMU do to bridge the gap between endowment ranking and prestige ranking, i.e. 51 to about mid-60s, I think?
Yeah. Well, we ask ourselves that every day. And I do think there's some regional bias in that, so I'll take that, but that's not all of it. And so a lot of it's reputational, and so it's important. And Brad's area with Pat LaSalle, anything we can get in papers in the Northeast and on the West Coast, we do. The fact that half of our students are from in-state, half of them are from out of state, and California is the biggest group. Florida is second, California is first, and then we've started recruiting in the Northeast, just so people will hear the name and come down more often. As a part of that whole effort, I'm getting on a couple of national higher education organizations I haven't been involved with in a few years, except on a periphery way, just to try to work more and more with people that I don't know, but who get votes on those things. With U.S. News and World Report. And so there's part of that, but a lot of it has to do with how much they hear, how much they recognize names, important names coming to SMU, and the number of those articles we've increased dramatically. But it's an ongoing process because every one of our metrics has gone up, but our overall ranking has not gone up the last 3 years. And so, as you can imagine, it's frustrating the dickens out of us. And so, it's just a matter of working it through. But Texas and Texas A&M have the same problem. I mean, if you want to tell me Texas is the 46th best university in the United States, that's ludicrous. There are so many ahead of them that can't compare. But, I do think they get some of the anti-Texas view there. But they're doing the same thing, trying to make sure that what is best of their experience is communicated.